did XG lip sync during their Coachella performance. I did some research, watching fan cam videos from their Coachella show, and saw in the comments, at least on YouTube, that many people were arguing, fighting, because supposedly they were lip syncing throughout the entire show. Maybe this video will reach new people who aren't familiar with my channel yet. So before I comment on my perspective regarding this, know that I'm an alpha too. Most videos on this channel are vocal technique analyses of XG. I've analyzed all the girls, especially Chiza and Juria multiple times. And I analyzed them in live performances. So those who already follow me already know what I usually say. They even know what happened since I made a video talking about my expectations for this Coachella performance. So you can see me as a fan of the girls. So I mentioned that Simon, the girls, XGALX, would opt for something safe, given the magnitude of this show, the most important show of their lives. So, it's a show that simply can't go wrong. They needed to leave the stage with a sense of accomplishment that it was the best show of their lives. Because this stage is the most valuable in pop culture for Asian pop groups. Everyone considers their peak to be performing at Coachella. What I said in my expectations video was that they'd opt for a safe performance, very much in line with what they've been presenting throughout their entire tour since mid last year. And, from my perspective, that's exactly what happened. I commented about the possibility that they would use backing tracks. I expected they'd use more subdued vocal backing tracks. I also mentioned the possibility of them singing, at least for half the show, using live band for half the songs. This band would be either a live band on site or pre-recorded. And, for those who watch my videos, there were no surprises. So yes, they did use backing tracks. The vocal tracks were indeed pre-recorded. Nothing much different from what they've presented in all their tour shows. There's always backing tracks, because they're a pop group. And pop groups have two performances to execute on stage, singing and dancing. So you'll always need vocal backing tracks. The instrumental in pop is usually pre-recorded, so that's backing tracks too. Even if it's a live show, you can have band instrumentals, and they might be pre-recorded. At Coachella, I can't tell if the band was backstage or in another location hidden. So, they supposedly would have the live band playing with them, or if it was a pre-recorded band playback, recorded earlier during show rehearsals. I can't say for sure, because other groups also performed with band sound when there was no actual band. So I can't tell which option they chose. If it's the festival's choice or the group's, so I can't say whether there was a live band or if it was pre-recorded. But it was within what I expected would happen. And then there was vocal playback with some Band accompaniment. Half the songs alternated between live band and studio playback, the electronic sound itself. And this is extremely necessary, so the dances can be performed with some stability. And vocal playback is also necessary so that the sound of the singing voice doesn't become shaky or imprecise. Because when you sing and dance, no matter how good your diaphragmatic support is, your breath control, it's very hard to maintain that while singing. Few are the singers who can pull this off. I said few. Less than 5% of pop singers can actually do this. When you hear someone like Beyoncé, she's in that 5% or less who can do a dance performance while singing. Here in my country, Brazil, there are some singers from more dance-oriented styles who have also developed this competence in diaphragmatic support with extremely advanced and refined technique that allows them to sing, jump while singing, so their voice doesn't need playback support because they can sustain it. In metal, for example, we have Iron Maiden, where the vocalist, Bruce Dickinson, can run, sing, literally jump. Even after 40, currently he's in his 60s, almost 70. He still keeps going at his own pace, running and jumping on stage. But he's always done this, and his diaphragmatic support is probably the most impeccable in contemporary music, despite being in metal. But check out, for example, Iron Maiden, Rock in Rio, 2001. It's unbelievable how that 46-year-old man, if I remember correctly, how much he ran and jumped on stage and just with a mic and guitar. It's a live band, no playback, nothing, and the voice is perfectly sustained. You can hear, on the rare occasions when you notice some vibration oscillation from him jumping, you hear everything. Zero playback. In rock and metal, it's pure voice. So, it's extremely difficult for a singer to have enough technique to perform like that. So XG used playback just like they always have, and would continue to do so. At Coachella, I never doubted that. In fact, I said they would probably use it. So I noticed there were two sides in the debates. Sometimes a musician, or someone without much musical knowledge, would say, they lip-synced everything. While others would say, wow, they sing so well, they're the best singers in the world. Well, neither one nor the other. They didn't lip-sync. But that definitely happened at some moments, as it normally does in all their performances. Why? Because there are moments when you're doing such an intense dance performance that you can't possibly sing. It's that simple, just that. This is global pop. Okay. And, also, you can't claim they have high-quality vocals, given that it was a playback performance, with very predominant vocal playback, which personally, those who follow me know I prefer when there's no playback. Because I come from classical music, and I'm a rock and metal fan. So my ear, it is accustomed to playback-free performances. That's what I prefer. So, that recording was very smooth, without inaccuracies, very well sung. When they pre-recorded this playback, most likely they weren't dancing. They recorded it singing, without moving. But, so there are a few moments when they stop singing and actually lip-sync, absolutely. Minimal, I'd say, maybe. Less than 5% of the time. Because that's how they've always done it. They don't have this lip-syncing characteristic. They sing, even if at minimum volume, leaning on the backtrack, but they sing. And most of the time, both listening to the original Coachella footage, the live broadcast, and the phantoms, you can notice, as we always notice, that there are moments when their voices stand out over the playback and moments when the voice completely falls behind. At Coachella, really, the vocal playback was more predominant. That's a fact. And like I said, it was predictable. The strength of Asian pop is indeed the dance, not the singing. Westerners have singing as their strength. Easterners have dance as their strength. Right, generally speaking. So much so that, from my layman's perspective regarding dance, you had those Western dancers and the XG girls. From my untrained view, from my layman's perspective, I don't understand anything about dance. I think the XG girls dance much better than the Western girls. Much more synchronized movements, much more precise. That was my perception, but I've also seen other performances by other groups. Also Asian here in the West that used Western dancers, and I always see more precision. But it's natural because dance is something millenary. In Asia, especially in East Asia, China, Japan, Korea, that eastern region, it's their specialty. There's no way around it. It's the culture. It's already ingrained. No doubt, in these group dances especially, they're exceptional. It's their great performance, and that's why we Westerners are so fascinated. Everything is so well done and beautiful. But regarding singing, Europeans, Americans, we have, really, even due to body type anatomical, we're already a bit more favored in this singing aspect. So, XG really used, and I expected less. Less vocal playback. Instrumental playback I don't mind, but I wanted the vocals more toned down. But I agree with the approach. I think it should have been like this, safe. The girls should be relaxed, having fun on stage, and living their dream. That's it. They're pop singers, and pop is like this. Could they have taken risks? It was already bold to include the band there, right? Because they never did that, only Shooting Star had been done, with a band, until then. So, they took risks, but extremely safely, because it was the group's most important show ever. I thought everything was done perfectly, everything very well thought out. So, we'll have more this weekend, the second performance. I believe they'll bring the other songs they didn't perform. I think they'll mix some that they did in the first one, adding the missing ones. I don't remember now, but I think there aren't many. So, I think they'll bring the other songs, but probably in the same way. I don't know if maybe this vocal playback, the fact it was so prominent, could also be related to the wind. After all, the wind was very strong, umbrellas collapsing, hair in their faces. Maybe it had something to do with that too, because we could hear, as we always do with XG, their breathing in the mix. Especially in the live recording, in the live broadcast, you could clearly hear them breathing, as it always has been. So I don't know if there was any relation to that. Maybe they turned down the mix because of it. Could be. And also, there were moments when some girls You could see they moved, completely took the mic away from their faces, and forgot to sing, and the playback was left alone. It's normal to happen, but it did happen. And it proves there really was vocal playback accompanying, and this happened a few times. And I'll even give some honorable mentions to Juran and Harvey, because, despite that, I could hear their voices standing out over the playback for a good part of the time. I was quite impressed. This was in rap parts where they weren't dancing as much, but in many singing parts too. They managed to impose their voices, so I found it quite interesting, and I even congratulate them for that. Because really the playback was loud, was very predominant. But I was intrigued by that. Now, I thought the performance was really good. I was quite surprised to hear actual heavy rock there. Later I might make a video reacting, talking about the highlights. I just have one reservation regarding Woke Up. They could have used a heavier guitar there, right? Simon. They could have used a heavier guitar, like in Shooting Star, since it's the first song, and perhaps the most aggressive song of the group. I think it deserved to be proper heavy metal, just like Shooting Star, to start precisely with some heavy metal, and end with heavy metal as they did, just like in Shooting Star. I felt the song was too quiet, too calm, beautiful, but it lacked that little taste of heavy music. So, I liked XG's performance. I really thought it was appropriate. Everything was right as it should be. It had to be safe like that. It reminded me of Baby Monster. Baby Monster is being daring. I think they'll easily make it to Coachella in a few years, for sure. But there's a difference between them and XG, because they started right with live performances on their first tour, already with a band. XG didn't start like that, even though it's also XG's first tour. But that wasn't XG's approach. Like I said, I believe it's something for the future, for several reasons. But I think XG will end up doing it too, adopting this approach of having at least half the show with an actual band. But Baby Monster does the whole show with a band, since it's a characteristic of YG, their company. So I believe XG will do it too. But it was still too early to just throw the girls on stage without vocal playback and only with a live band. Even Baby Monster has playback accompanying them despite the band. Generally speaking, very subtle playback, because you can notice their flaws on stage, and that's how it should be. Because the goal is for them to sing, to have the autonomy to sing without playback on stage. And it's something XG has been working on with the girls' solos, criticizing the girls, saying they don't sing, can't sing, and therefore used lip sync. That's ridiculous to say, because just watch my playlist analyzing the girls, how many flaws I point out in their live performances, because they're singing live. Proves they sing live. Anyone with a good ear who's a musician knows they sing live, no doubt. So, that's what I wanted to say about this. I hope to make a shorter video, but I obviously never can. So, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, your comment. Tell me what you thought, politely, no hate, or I'll delete the comment. Here in the comment section. And also subscribe to see more videos like this. And consider donating via the value button below or the PayPal link. Alright, see you later. Bye.